Iya,
Oke,
makanya.
Pak.
Nah, tapi moro-moro Bapak, sudah.
Udah.
Coba, thank you. Invite Pak Fahrul sih.
Bapaknya gambar remove kan?
Itu, mohon maaf, bukan di remove, tapi kurang tahu ya. Tadi sebelum recordnya mulai, terus tiba-tiba ada someone bla 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 gitu. Coba dosennya suruh, sorry,
Udah,
sorry.
Man.
Yes, I am back again.
Ya, sorry, sir.
Yes, what is happening?
I don't know, maybe some errors.
Okay, thank you. So, let's now start our meeting. And can you hear me clearly?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
Yes.
No, not noise.
Not, not at all.
No, sir.
Okay, because my son is playing YouTube in a very loud, and I hope it won't be a noise here. Okay, so this is the last meeting. This is the last meeting for fiqh muamalah, and before the mid test, I mean, before the mid test. And after me, you will have Mr. Yasin. And will you meet me again in another subject? What subject do you have this semester? Hello? Hello?
We still searching about that.
Hello?
I'm sorry, sir. We still searching about that.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, I don't know. Will I meet you again after mid test? And for fikih muamalah, you will have Mr. Yasin after me. So this is the seventh meeting of fikih muamalah, which discussing about ijaroh. Okay, so who is these names in the slide? Actually, this slide is uh, the origin one. The origin one made by your senior from Akis 2014, and then I completed, and as my honor, I must include their name in this slide. Okay, what is ijaroh? The meaning of ijaroh. Al-ijaroh comes from the word al-ajru, which means al-iwad, which means change, and wages. Wages. So usually we also use the word ujroh to pay something. If you rent something, you pay ujroh. Or if you need help from somebody else, you pay also ujroh. So al ijaroh can al-ijaroh is concluding those two kind of transaction, hiring and also renting. Ijaroh is a lease agreement to lease goods, or usually we call it leasing in Indonesia, leasing company. To lease goods for a certain period of time through rental payments. Or ijaroh is a lease transaction for goods and or wages for a service within a certain period of time through rental payments or service fees. Okay. According to Muhammad Shafi'i Antonio, I think I will remember this. If I'm not mistaken, you will have the history of Islamic thinking, right? Secara pemikiran ekonomi Islam, am I correct?
Right, sir.
Right. So after this lesson, then you will meet me. Before mid test, who teach? Who teach? The
Mr.
history of
Ajib, Mr.
how
Ajib,
is it?
sir.
Mr. Acip. Okay. So after mid test, you will have me to continue the history of Islamic thinking. Okay. So how is it, Mr. Acip? Is it in English or bahasa or bilingual?
Bilingual, sir.
Bilingual. Okay. Okay, let's continue. According to Muhammad Shafi'i Antonio, who is this guy? Shafi'i Antonio is one of the Islamic thinker of in contemporary era. If you have learned about the Islamic thinking, Islamic thinker, there is a lot of ulama, and Dr. Muhammad Shafi'i Antonio is one of it, which is one of the master in Islamic economic thinking, and he is from Indonesia, and actually he was born as a Chinese. So he is a Chinese Muslim, and he is very famous. So I think you have known him. So Dr. Muhammad Shafi'i Antonio, according to him, ijaroh is a contract to transfer the use of rights of goods and services through the payment of rental or wages without being followed by the transfer of ownership on the goods themselves. Why without being followed by the transfer of ownership? Because if so happen, then it is called buy, al-buy, or buying and selling. If there is transfer of ownership, but in ijaroh there is no transfer of ownership. According to the compilation of Islamic economic law, ijaroh is the lease of goods within a certain period of time with payment. Therefore, ijaroh can be defined as lease contract and hire contract. Okay. Whose bird is that? Oh, okay. Next. Oh, the bird is very good. A basic ijarah law. The basic of law or ijaroh reference are Al-Quran, Sunnah, and Ijma. The basic of the law of ijaroh in the Quran is Surah At-Talaq, the sixth verse. If they breastfeed your children for you, then give them their wages. I suppose you have already known what is that breastfeeding, right? Breastfeeding means baby drink milk from mother. Okay, please don't ask me what does it mean. Okay, breastfeeding. Then, if you want your child to be breastfeeded by others, then there is no sin for you if you give payment according to what is due. So, give payment, give ujrah. That is what Islam teach us to give ujrah. Even for such activity like paying zakat by Amil, Amil himself get ujrah. Amil himself is one of the 8 asnaf, one of the category who get the payment of zakah. So, actually in Islam we give many examples to give incentive, give incentive to anyone who help us. Okay, give wages to the people you work before their sweat got dry. Okay, so what does it mean? It means don't take too long to give the worker their wages, because usually they eat from their wages in that day. So today's money, today's eating. We must pay it fast. Not because why? Because not everybody have saving. Not everybody have saving. So you better give your worker their wages immediately. Rasul kept and paid wages to those who kept it. I don't know is this translation is correct or not, but in the origin in bahasa, it is bekam. You know bekam. Bekam is in Arabic al-hijama. Bekam or al-hijama mean you put a small glass to your body and the dirty blood will go outside. It is a bekam or al-hijama. And Rasulullah like to do that, and it is very healthy. But I never try it yet. I'm afraid of blood. Okay, so next, what is it? The pillars and the conditions of ijaroh. What is it? Pillars and conditions. We call it in Arabic rukun. A rukun in bahasa we call it rukun dan syarat. Rukun dan syarat. The first one is mu'jir and mustajir. That is who? The people who make lease agreement or rent. Mu'jir is a person who receives wages and who rents. Mustajir is a person who receives wages to do something and rent something. Required by mu'jir and mustajir is puberty or baligh, sensible, well doing tasarruf, or they are good in handling property, and sincere each other. Sincere. Actually, in bahasa or in Arabic is ridho each other, sincere. It is quite difficult to find it in English. This word of ridho. Okay. Number two, sigot, or the akad, or the statement of ijab kabul between mu'jir and mustajir. Ijab kabul for rent and wages. Okay. Number three, it is ujroh. Ujroh is the required to know the amount by both parties, both in renting and waging. Ujroh is the money we paid. The money we paid is ujroh. Number four is goods that are rented or something that is done in hiring wages, provided that the goods are rented with some conditions. What is it? The conditions? Let's see. Goods that are the object of the lease agreement and hiring wages should be utilized for its use. What is it? What does it mean? It means it must be useful. It must be useful. Must be useful. What is not useful? You must see our last lecture about the forbidden transaction. Okay, the forbidden transaction. Something that is not useful. For example, renting land. It is very useful. Or renting cell phone in another country. Just like in Europe, in part of Europe, they rent a cell phone, not like in Indonesia. In Indonesia, we buy our cell phone. In another country, they are a cell phone renting. Just like if you like football or anything sport, there is a company for renting cell phone like Vodafone, like what is the other? I forgot. So the renting company for cell phone, for example. What is the example of not useful thing to rent? Let's see. Oh, looks like after this we will see the example in the next slide, but later. Okay. Next object the object rented and wages should be handed over to the tenant and employees following its uses. So the object must be clear. The object must be clear and can be handed over. Just like if you rent a car, then the object, the people who rent a car must see the car you rent. You cannot hide the car. The benefit of rented things is permissible, not something that is forbidden. This is very clear. For example, You cannot rent uh, lady boy, for example. It is forbidden by Shara. Do you know lady boy? Please don't ask me. Okay. Next, rented items are required to be immortal. Until the time, and there will be explanation after this about this, and determined in accordance with the agreement in the contract. Okay, next slide. Uh, an object that is rented is a direct benefit of an object. For example, renting a house to occupy, renting a car to drive, renting a book to read, renting a land or garden for planting. It is not justified renting indirect benefits. For example, renting a tree for its fruit, or renting livestock to take the cups. The cups means the children of livestock. Or renting livestock or animals for its eggs or milk. Why? Because children of livestock, eggs, fruit, uh, fur in bahasa is what is it? Kulit, bulu. Milk are non-beneficial materials that is agreed to be used for the function, not the material itself. So if you want the eggs, usually you buy the eggs, not renting the mother chicken, right? You buy the eggs immediately, not renting a hen, or mother chicken. Okay, property that is the object of ijaroh must be property that is istiqmal. What is istiqmal? Istiqmal means can be used repeatedly without causing damage to the substance and reducing its properties, such as, for example, house or vehicle. Because if you use a house or vehicle, it will not end. It will not stop functioning, right? If you renting your car and your car return just in the complete shape, just like before, right? It is not like uh, a candle. Do you know a candle? A candle, if you use candle, then and if you burn a candle, then the candle uh, will vanish, right? It is not istiqmal. Istiqmal is immortal. While property that is istihlaki or damaged or reduced in nature due to the use, such as notebook. Do you know notebook? It doesn't mean a laptop, right? Notebook. The book you can write on it. So a notebook. If you use notebook and you write on it, then it will be full. So there is no notebook renting. Or food. So food, if you consume food, it will entering your stomach, and it will vanish. So it is not legal to hold ijaroh on such a property, which is called istihlaki. Istihlaki. It based on the rule or kaidah. Kaidah. You will learn about kaidah perhaps next semester. Al-Qaeda, the rule in Islamic economic, that every property that is utilized while its substance does not undergo change can be used as ijaroh. If otherwise, then it should not be. Just like I have given you the example, right? You can rent a car or house or a kosan, for example, but you cannot rent food or a candle or something that is istihlaki, or it will vanish if used. Okay, I hope you understand. If you don't understand, please ask. Next. Payment of wages and rent. If the ijaroh is a job, then the obligation to pay the wage is at the end of the job. The right to receive wages for mustajir is when the work was completed. Based on hadis Rasulullah. Give the wages of the laborer before his sweat dries. If renting goods, the rent is paid during the lease agreement. Usually, you pay what you borrow or rent in the meantime, right? In the first time you meet the mustajir. Unless otherwise specified in the contract. Just like if you rent a room for kosan, rent a room or rent a room or a hotel room, you pay it first. But sometimes the hotel itself can ask you the other method of payment. For example, oh, Mister, you can pay it later after you sleep here, for example. The benefits of the goods is remaining flow during the lease. The benefit of the good, what is it? The benefit? If you stay in the hotel room, then the benefit is you can sleep on it. All right, you can stay on it. That is the benefit. So the benefit is remaining flow during the leasing time. Okay. Next. While it's a contract on the job, there must be a job description that is clearly, and it is not allowed to change a person in a certain period of time with uncertainty of the job. For example, if you have a maid in your house, a maid in Bahasa we call it assistant rumah tangga or daily worker. Their job is very unclear and unrestricted. For example, if you have maid, if there is no contract, clear contract, you can ask him You can ask her to sweep the floor. You can ask her to cook for you, or you can ask her to washing your motorcycle, anything. You can ask anything. Okay, why? Because the job is unclear. What is the job? Uh, every job must be done in the house. So actually, it is not so good to do such a thing. There must be a clear, there must be a clear statement of what must be done by the worker. Okay. Next. While wages for performing acts of worship means ibadah, such as fasting or saum, praying or salat and others, there is a difference of opinion between ulama. According to Hanafiyah and Hanabilah, it is not valid. Why? Because the act or that ibadah is self-approach to Allah, or in Arabic we call it takarrub ilallah. While according to Imam Malik and Imam Shafi'i, the ijaroh over the teaching of Al-Quran and doing azan and becoming the imam of the mosque is allowed because it applies to a job that is clear. So it is a job. Actually, it is a job and not a personal obligation. But Imam Shafi'i does not allow ijaroh on the imam of obligatory 5 prayer, according to Imam Shafi'i. In the terms of worship or ibadah, Imam Shafi'i allows ijaroh to perform manasik haji, al-hajj. Okay, next. Nature and the law of ijaroh contract. According Hanafiya, believe that the ijarah contract is binding. In bahasa we call it mengikat, binding. But can be cancelled. It can be cancelled unilaterally if there is an illness from one of the parties of the contractor, such as, for example, one of the parties die or lost the ability to act legally. What does it mean? For example, if somebody you have akad with is, for example, na'udzubillah, got sick of a stroke, for example, so he cannot doing akad again. If one of the contractors dies, the ijarah contract is void because the benefit cannot be inherited, according to Hanafi. But the majority of scholar or jumhur ulama say that the ijarah contract is binding unless there is a defect or the item should not be used. If a contractor dies, the benefit of the ijarah contract can be inherited because it includes the property, and the death of one of the contractor parties does not cancel the ijaroh contract. For example, you rent a room for kosan. Then the owner of the kosan is die. The owner of the kosan is die, but it is not canceling the ijaroh contract. You still can live in the kosan because you have the contract to live in that kosan for 1 year, for example. If the owner of the kosan die, it is no problem. You still can stay in the kosan. Okay, next. Cancellation and end of ijaroh. Ijaroh is a common type of contract which does not allow the existence of fasakh on one side, because ijaroh is an exchange contract except when it is found that things that require fasakh. Ijaroh will be void or fasakh if there are the following things. What is it? Occurrence or of defect in rental goods that occur in the hands of tenants. For example, you borrow a car from car rental, then na'udzubillah, you hit something. And the car is broken. For example, damage to rented goods. The same. Damage to hired goods or ma'jur alai. The same. Fulfillment of the promised benefit, the end of the time that has been determined, and the completion of the job. If the akad is finished, then the contract is over. According to Hanafiya, it is possible to fasah ijaroh from one of the parties, such as renting, for example, renting a shop for trade. Then the shop got robbed. Then it is allowed to fasah the rental. For example, you rent a place in a market because you want to sell something in that market. You want to do business. But then someday, na'udzubillah, your shop is got robbed, or somebody stealing your property in that place. Then according to Hanafiya, you can fasakh the rental, or you can cancel the rental. Why? Because you can say to the owner, this place is not safe. I do not dare to do business here again. For example. Okay, next. This case is in a renting house. All forms of physical repair of the house with respect to its main function as residence is the responsibility of the homeowner. However, the tenant or the borrower does not have the right to claim the repair of the facility because the owner rents the house with all of its shortcomings, and the tenant agreement must be made after considering all the shortcomings unless written on contract. For example, you want to stay in the hotel room, but then in the first you're coming, you have already seen the room is consists of uh, bed, for example, bed and bedroom, and also, for example, refrigerator or air conditioner. And if you have already seen and you stay in that hotel room, you cannot claim what is not in the contract. For example, please, hotel manager, why don't you give me uh, hot water? For example, hot water. Why not? There is no hot water. So the contract must be clear at first. The contract must be clear at first. So as for the tenant's obligation is limited to care such as maintaining cleanliness and not damaging. So the other function as a resident is the responsibility of the homeowner, of the hotel owner, and the responsibility for the guest is to care the cleanliness and not damaging property in the hotel room. Okay, next. Okay, so if the list object is damaged before the delivery, then the ijaroh contract is void. If the damage occurs after the delivery, then the factor causing the damage is considered, if not due to negligence of the tenant or the borrower, then the tenant has the right to cancel the lease and claim compensation. Otherwise, if due to negligence or it is the mistake of the tenant, then the owner does not have the right to cancel lease agreement, but he has the right to claim repairs for the damage of the goods, as well as in the event of loss or destruction. Then all forms of negligence or something mistake give rise to obligations and responsibilities to the perpetrator. So whoever doing mistake to damage the thing, uh, it can be the owner or it can be the borrower. Uh, both of parties must be responsible. Okay, next. Ah, so we are now entering the contemporary ijaroh form in the modern era. So there are two examples of contract in ijaroh which is not exist in the old times. It is only happening in the modern era. Which one? So it is ijaroh muntahiyah bitamlik and ijaroh mausufah fizimah. The ijaroh mausufah fizimah contract is a new contract that has not been explained by jurists or by ulama in the book of Torah or in the book of the old books of ulama. The ijarah musufa fi zimmah contract is a combination of two contracts, which is ijarah and salam. Ijarah contract because what is sold is service. Salam contract because the object of ijarah was handed over later or not cash or not immediately. Therefore, the ijarah mausufah fi zimmah contract is often called salam in service or forward in service, or in Arabic salam fil manafi. Okay. Simply ijarah is to buy the benefits of goods or services, such as the medical profession selling medical service, the bikers or ojekers selling delivery service, the dropshipper selling buyer such service, and business renting lodging or renting room or renting a kosan or renting uh, hotel room. So ijarah mausufah fi zimma is an ijarah contract with the price of wages paid in cash, while the lease object is delivered at the agreed time because it is not available at the moment or cannot be used at the time of the contract. That's why it is called a part of salam, like renting an Indian house, and renting a travel vehicle for a certain amount of time before seeing the vehicle. Okay, next. So in ijarah mausufah fi zimmah, the goods is not ready. The good is not ready yet. In principle, scholars or ulama differ on ijarah mausufah fi zimmah law. The majority of jurists, Malikiyah, Syafi'iyah, and Hambali, think that the ijarah mausufah fi zimmah is a law or no problem. While Hanafiya thinks that ijarah mausufah fi zimmah is not a law. Okay, so that is the difference. Next. According to AAO IV, what is it? AAO IV is in bahasa we have PSAK, the standard of accounting. AOIV Syariah is the standard in Syariah accounting. OIV Syariah Standard and DSN MUI, fatwa DSN MUI, allow ijarah mausufah bizimah. Ijarah mausufah bizimah can be done provided that the criteria for rental goods can be measured, even if the object does not belong to the lessor at the time. The time of delivery of rental goods agreed upon at the time of the contract. The leased goods must be believed to be the property of the tenant. So it must be the one who renting the goods must be uh, can make sure that the goods he provide is ready at the certain period of time. So it is okay that if you're not having your goods in the starting of the contract, but you must make sure that you have the goods at the time the project done. For example, if you want to go to Bali, for example, or you want to go, for example, just like your senior want go to Bali and they rent a bus, and actually the company who rent a bus is not always having their own bus. So they are borrowing from another company usually. So at the moment of the contract, you cannot see the bus. You cannot see the bus because they don't have it. But it is not a problem. So in the contract, the bus must be ready at the time of the journey, right? At the time of the journey, the bus must be ready. Okay, next. Fatwa DSN MUI on ijaroh mausufah fizima. Explain about the signs that must be applied in every product or transaction based on ijaroh mausufah fizima. The contract is effective since the contract was held. The term of using of the benefit must be agreed upon at the time of the contract. According to Fatwa DSN MUI. Okay, I think it is clear enough. Next. Ah, so if you renting a land, it is okay if you don't have it yet. It may not yet belong to the landlord at the time of the contract, but the benefit must be halal, must be known for the specification and acceptable. The criteria for the rental goods described must be measured in specification. The form of the rental goods must be clear, ready to be built. This is in the term of you are want to buy an Indian house. Indian house belongs to the lessor or developer working with the lessor and dispute free. What is dispute free? In bahasa in origin means there is no problem in it or bebas sengketa. Bebas sengketa. The land which is being built, a house on it must be dispute free. Okay, next. The availability of rental items must be clearly known. And some rental items already exist at the time of the contract. The lessee must have sufficient ability to realize the rental goods. For example, I want to buy a house. Oh, okay, sir. Please come to our site and let me show you the example house. Usually there is one house already built. For example, usually if you go to the site of developer, usually if you want to buy house, if the lessee submit the lessed goods but does not comply with the agreed specification or fails, the tenant reserves the right to continue the contract with or without requesting compensation, or cancel the contract by request a refund in accordance with the amount already submitted. Okay, so this is in fiqh muamalah we call it khiyar, right? Khiyar. Next, medicine. Okay, ujrah can be paid in cash or in installment or in credit or gradually according to agreement. Ujrah paid by the tenant after the contract recognized as belonging to the lessor. Okay, so usually if you buy a house, you must pay first. Then the house will be built later because it is baik salam, right? Baik salam. It is permissible to pay down payment or in fiqh muamalah we call it urbun. Urbun. It is permissible to pay urbun by the tenant to the lessor, who can be compensated by the lessor due to the process of trying to realize the lease goal, and become a rent payment when the ijarah mausufah fi zimmah contract is executed in accordance with the agreement. Okay, so it is okay to pay down payment in ijarah mausufah fi zimmah. Next, linguistically. Okay, so we are entering the second shape of ijaroh, contemporary ijaroh. After ijaroh mausufah fi zimmah, now we will have ijaroh muntahiyah bit tamlik. What is it? Linguistically, ijaroh muntahiyah bit tamlik has meaning by breaking two words in it. The first word is al-ijaroh, which means purchase, which is something given in the form of wages for work. And the second word is the word at-tamlik. At-tamlik, al-milk, al-milik. Linguistically has a meaning that can make others to have something. Whereas, according to the term, at-tamlik can be in the form of ownership of object or ownership of benefits, can be in return or not in return. Okay, let's see what is next. Ijarah muntahiyah bitamlik in fatwa MUI defined as a lease agreement accompanied by the option of transfer of ownership of the lease object. So it is very common. It is very common in leasing motorcycle. If you buy motorcycle in Adira or in FEF or in Suzuki, for example, it is usually if it is Sharia, it's using ijarah muntahiyah bitamli. So, as for in the regulation of Capital Market Supervisory Board or BAPOPAM, the general provision of ijarah muntahiyah bitamlik is a contract for the distribution of funds for the transfer of rights of an item within a certain time with the payment of rent between the financing company as the lessor and the tenant, accompanied by the option of transferring ownership after the end of the lease term. Okay. Next. So, in simply way, ijarah muntahiyah bitamlik is if you want to buy something, you rent something, you borrow something, but in the end of transaction you can have it. It is ijaroh muntahiyah bitamlik, or ijaroh ended with ownership. Meanwhile, in the compilation of Islamic economic law explains ijarah muntahiyah bitamlik between muajir or the tenant with mustajir, with the purchase of ma'jur or ijarah object at the end of the term. Ijarah, which is included in the contract in the field of services, has now been expanded by linking the concept of intiqal al-milkiyah, or transfer of ownership. Therefore, one of the services that thrive in the Sharia economy is the product of ijarah muntahiyah bitamlik. So this is a very famous contract, ijarah muntahiyah bitamlik. I think it is more famous than ijarah mausufah bizimah. Okay, next. Conceptually, ijarah muntahiyah bitamlik is similar to leasing. That leasing is a form of financing in the form of the provision of capital goods for use by certain companies based on periodic payment. A company by the right or option for the company to purchase the capital good in question or extend the term. Leasing based on the rest of the value that has been mutually agreed upon. So actually at the end of transaction you have option. You can own the thing, you can own the goods, or not. That is an option for it. Next, in the implementation of ijarah muntahiyah bitamlik contract, there are provisions that are general and specific. The general provisions are the pillars and conditions that occur in ijarah contract also occur in EMPT. The agreement to perform the ijarah muntahiyah bitamlik contract must be agreed upon when the ijarah contract is signed. The rights and obligations of each party are explained in akad. These are the general provision. What is the specific? Let's see next slide. The specific or the special ones that the party who performs ijarah muntahiyah bitamlik must perform the ijarah contract first. The contract of transfer of ownership either by sale or buy or give can only be done after the ijarah period is complete. Number two, the promise of transfer of ownership agreed upon at the beginning of ijarah is wa'ad, whose law is not binding. So the wa'ad is not binding or tidak mengikat. When the wa'ad is implemented, then at the end of the ijarah, the ownership transfer must be made. So this means that the ijarah muntahiyah bitamlik contract is not contrary to the principle of Sharia. What is it? The principle that is no to contract in one agreement. So the contract must be finished one and then continue to the next contract. Ijarah first, then bitamlik then later. The differences between ijarah muntahiyah bitamlik and leasing. Okay, The contract ijaroh and its what is sale or purchase or grant the market handle after ijaroh expires. If customer won, then necessary attach concept sale or purchase or grant. Also included with the bank need to sell asset if at the end of the ijaroh time customer don't want the asset. For example, you rent an excavator. For example, you rent a heavy machine for your business. Then at the end of the time, there is an option for you. Uh, do you want to own this big machine or you don't want it? If you want to have it, there will be the akad of buy and sell. Buy and sell. If the ijarah is just fulfilling the part of the price. Let's see, for example, the machine itself is in amount of 1 million rupiah, for example. Uh, no, not 1 million. 1 million is 1 juta. 1 billion, for example, 1 billion or 1 miliar, for example. Then you pay ujroh, not enough to 1 billion. Then and the time of contract is over. Then you must buy if you want to own the machine. But if you have a very long time contract, for example, 10 years or 15 years, and your ujroh is already in the amount of 1 billion, usually the owner of the machine will give you for free. Because it is already completed the price of the goods. Okay. Wait. It's not over yet. And this rent and sale in leasing is one union in one agreement. So that is the different. But in ijarah muntahiyah bitamlik, there is two type of akad. Ijarah first and then transfer of ownership later. Okay, next slide. Transfer of ownership by using selling and buying and grant or hibah. Transfer of ownership in ijarah muntahiyah bitamlik implemented after time of ijarah is over. Okay, that it is still the same with the leasing, but the leasing usually there is no akad of uh, hibah and buy in it, but actually it is just like the same. Okay, I think this is the last slide, and this is the last slide. So if you have any question, please you ask. And don't forget to study because next week we will have mid-semester examination. Any question? No question?
Not yet, sir.
Sir.
Okay, I hope you don't ask, but you understand. I'm afraid you don't ask because you don't understand. Okay, if you are having question after the lecture is over, you can contact me in the room. Okay, or you can contact me in the room. Okay, if there is no questions, let's finish our meeting and hopefully there will be no problem in the examination. And I wish for you all the best and good luck. Let's close by doa akhir majelis. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Thank you for your attention and see you next week insyaallah. I'm sorry if I made mistake. Uh, Study well, okay? Study well, okay? Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you,
Waalaikumsalam
sir.
warahmatullahi
Waalaikumsalam
wabarakatuh.
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.